that one reflects either required or recommended changes from Ecology from what was originally proposed in our locally approved. There was some confusion about how to identify, what's the normal public use of surface waters. And again, this is paraphrased and pull the exact language.
This is again where CUP could be helpful. If you look at case law in terms of navigation, it's determined, it really is sometimes on a case-by-case basis. Whether there's a local park next door, whether it's a marina, and there's a ferry. So you might not want to be so specific. You might just want to look at a broader interpretation of it in terms of navigation. That would allow you more flexibility for the CUP to look at water.
So all the boating, all the jet skiing. Taking away their space.
I think the other one that just jumped out at us when we were driving up was number 9. And this sort of requirement to track information that gives us farm table sort of idea, and it was this whole range. So I don't know, Lori, if other permits require this, but I think our question there would be whether or not it's something under the Shoreline Management Act, where it's appropriate to do under the authority act. I don't know. This seems like it's more about food and less about the actual operation. But I'd want to at least explore that one.
I agree. The restock egg source is to permit with WDFW and all the transfers, so that they have to do that anyway. But the wholesale retail sales, you require that all your industries in town to report all that. That just seems quite in the past.
Well, I think what we do with a lot of foods. I think, that, for example, when you have a public health outbreak or something, you try to track it back and say where did that spinach come from, and where did that beef come from.
But do you want a routine basis require them to always track that and report? Do you want to
not from the local thing, but then does the federal to the state require it, so we have to. If they're not requiring it, and there's a whole layer.
Like a lot of the federal government requires food tracking, but that's not.
So I think this is just one. I think we understand what you're trying to do, and we just need to know whether this is something we really have authority to do under this. So good question. And this is sort of our first question.
Sure. Let's see what the next game
Yeah. No, but this is, even getting your first blush is very helpful. Yeah. It also strikes me that, so, I think this has been a good dialogue. It strikes me that probably an underlying and perhaps a legal interpretation question is this Route 1 about whether in-water finfish in itself is preferred and must be allowed as distinguished from still water dependent but on the shore.
So I would suggest that we, and it's up to you how you want to handle this, but one option would be we would set something up with you and staff and our attorneys and staff, and just talk through that issue, talk through the segment issue, and just make sure that we're all on the same page with those two issues that came up together.
And also talking through the rulemaking and appeal process, and understanding both avenues of whether we submit something to you or whether we don't, and understanding the process and ramifications of that, and whether, and sort of referencing back to at least the section of, I think, the WAC that the county has read that seems to see that you can approve, suggest to us that you could approve 9/10 of the SMP and focus your denial and rulemaking on the 1/10.
Would it be wise then for maybe you guys to craft these questions for our meetings so that it's not transposed by us?
To some extent, they're right here, but
Yeah.
we can work on them more, I guess.
Just hold them.
Just so we make sure.
Well, and I think if David's there, I think he can pose them pretty clearly,
Well, it'd be nice to get it ahead of time so that.
so they're prepared, yeah. We can do that.
Yeah.
It would also, if you're concerned about the record, it helps the record. In terms of where we are at
Yeah.
this moment in the remaining questions.
Yeah, and actually, that may be a procedural challenge that the county will face. So the question about what record we and you are restricted in the legislative deliberative process, that would be I think that would be a useful thing for both attorneys to collaborate on, because I anticipate that it will be a procedural challenge.
I'll add that for us.
Okay.
I hope we can spend the majority of the time on, the first options. I guess I don't want to, I prefer not to spend a lot of time on what happened when we go to rulemaking. And I understand you want that explanation, we can talk about it. And I just hope that we're still all operating in those. Can we solve this together and figure out some ways to work? I just think it's too all about it.
So we have 5 legal issues, talking about what is board independent, segments, rulemaking, appeals, and what is the record for the deliberative process. Those are the 5 that I have. I will frame questions for those.
And I'm anticipating that they're, subject to further direction from the commissioners, but that there could be direct staff discussion on more of the scientific and legal basis and sort of starting to map out some of these things on the landscape together, having those kinds of collaborations. And again, we very much appreciate the fact that you drove all the way to be here and that we can have this kind of dialogue. Very helpful, no matter how this goes. Deeply appreciated.
We have excellent restaurants here too.
And please drop some money in there. Stay overnight.
Anytime you want to come to the Manchester Research Station and get on with the NetCam, talk to the scientists, or if you want to see anything, I'd be happy to facilitate that. It's a research NetCam, so it's a little different than commercial content analysis in many ways.
Excuse my ignorance, but where is Manchester?
South of Port Orchard. It's south of Port Orchard.
Okay.
It's about an hour and a half from here, so sort of. Thank you.
You also,
Our most famous resident was Springer, the killer whale, which we had in the NetCam, so.
there's one thing that kind of bothered me, it seems like with all this con science, because we're obviously using different things. It seems like everybody I talk to that's in government believes in the pro side. It's just like, I haven't heard anybody that's in state government that has talked about it, except for John Kerwin has talked a little bit about it, but the con side of the thing, and it makes me kind of wonder, is there pressure coming from the Department of Commerce? Or are we doing it because we want to create a new industry that hardly creates jobs, has an inferior product, and, I don't understand. I'm kind of lost when I talk to people at the state level.
Well, I'll take devil's advocate here is some of the people that are against NetCams are getting information that is fueled by possibly not reputable sources or someone that has an agenda also. So it's like politics, whatever side you're listening to, you have to ferret out what the truth is. What what stand you're gonna take on it. And I would, speaking for myself, don't have a pro or con stand on it. It's not, I mean, I can argue both sides. It's a personal thing, I think, for a lot of issues with that.
Is it primarily the issue over the priority for water dependent uses?
Well, I think that's the way I look at that, is that we have this overarching authority that we are responsible for carrying out our roles in our agency, and it lays the foundation for giving this sort of preference and doing it in a way that's smart, but not just eliminating these uses, trying to encourage them. This is one of the tenets of that, and it's public access to digital lines and protecting the resources. It's the principles that have been in place since the early 70s. So when I think about like an agency having an agenda, our agenda is to carry out this authority that we are to carry out. And so I think and this, I'm sure that whoever is dealing with some visa that they feel like an agenda that's driven by something else. But I guess I can tell you, no one has come to me and said, look, Commerce has this trade quota, we got to get on it here. So it's okay.
I don't mean to be insulting.
No,
It is a curiosity.
Yeah.
State agencies come in.
If we're proposing no port activity, we have to be supporting port activity. So, it's the
Yes.
same kind of thing, a lot of different things.
So we'll follow your lead in terms of, so we'll take the next steps in terms of trying to set up the meeting with the attorneys and see since we have questions to get to them. I'd like to do that sooner than later if we can. They're also on pretty tight, agenda themselves, so everything's going on. But if there's something we can do to maybe follow up on some of these other conversations that we laid out, if you want to do that, let us know.
We're setting up guidance setting for our staff to be interacting. Does that sound about right now? So I would, well, adjourn. So, 2 weeks. Yes, our next meeting will be 2 weeks from today. We will not meeting on the 5th Monday. Thank you all for coming. All those in favor of the motion? Aye.